Welcome to the February energy forecast. There is some big energy coming through this month. Might be a little bit different than what you expect. I'm really excited to do this forecast. It's different than anything I've actually ever done. You know, I've got some pieces I want to speak to that, and of course the Akashic Records are open right now, so I'm going to be channeling as I go, but I'm going to be speaking to actually some very important astrological events that are showing up this month. This is something I've never really done before, but intuitively I feel like it is important to bring up why some of these events are so important that are showing up this month, because it's really going to be adding to the energy. With that being said, please use your discernment. This is something that I talk about a lot. Not everything is going to resonate for you. This is a collective energy forecast. And so it speaks to the temperature of the collective. That means some things are really going to line up for you and some things may not. And especially because I know I've got a lot of my spiritual girlies that are here that listen to these forecasts. You know, we run on a cycle, a 28-day, typically a 28-day cycle. Not always, not for everyone, right? But we run on a cycle, and, you know, I talk about a lot how the feminine cycle very much reflects the moon cycle, right? And we go through these 4 different phases. And I actually speak a lot to how that is meant to really impact your energy more than anything else. You know, something that we do in my Empowered Awakening program is we follow the moon cycles, we follow the phases, and how this can really mirror and reflect our own feminine cycles. I'm not going to really go into that, but what I want to say is, you know, we are energetic beings. Our energy is always changing. And so when I provide these forecasts, some of it may land for you, some of it may not. Some of it may not land now, and some of it may land later in the month. And so I always say, please use your discernment, take what resonates, leave the rest, because you always know what is true for you. And you know it based off of how it feels, how it resonates in your body, in your energy, in your heart space. You'll be able to tell. And so notice if there's parts of you that are like, oh, I don't know about, and you start to get frantic, or you start to try to grasp onto things. That's probably a sign it's not necessarily resonating for you. Okay, so use your discernment with everything that I provide in this forecast. And without further ado, let's dig in, because there is lots to look at here. So as a whole, I want to speak to the energy of this month in terms of what I am feeling into based off the astrological events as well as the Akashic Records guidance. February, and we have been hearing about this so much that we're finishing off the year of the snake and we're entering the year of the fire horse, that we have moved from a year 9 into a year 1, but there's been a lot of transitional energy. And if you were feeling January, one thing that I noticed about the energy of January was that it felt heavy. It felt like there were big things showing up, but it felt like the energy moved slow. And it was funny, we were joking around in our program this week, Empowered Awakening, and one of the women said, January felt like it had 45 days. And I agree. There were a lot of big pieces that showed up in January, and the energy just felt like it was just a long month. So as we're entering into February, one of the big pieces that is showing up is almost you could think of February as like being broken up into 2 different energies because of these astrological events, I think, that are also going to be playing a part in that. The first part of the month still feels like we are closing out pieces. There is darkness, not a bad thing. Darkness in terms of a time of reflection, a time of cocooning still. That feels like it's the first part of February. And then moving into the second half of February, there's going to be more light. There's going to be more clarity. There's going to be more movement. There's going to be more opportunity for expansion. In saying that, the second half of February also feels like there will be more intense energy. So be ready for that. And as a reminder, the records gave in the 2026 year forecast. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch it. Really great, really helpful to think about for the year ahead. One of the main themes that they gave was nervous system regulation. If you are not practicing, if you do not have nervous system tools for regulation, for grounding, for rooting your energy and moving your energy and finding regulation. The energy this year is big. It's going to feel more intense at times. It's going to feel faster. And the way that I reference this is, you know, I went through a really big piece last weekend with my dog Sal and this horse experience, and the horse charged at me. It was a really fast, intense experience. And it was over in like 3 minutes, but it was so intense for my nervous system. And it took me a little bit to come home and ground my energy and root my energy and come back to a place of baseline, but actually way faster than it would have in the past. So it's quick, fast energy, but we want to make sure that we have these tools to help ground that energy, anchor it, alchemize the fastness of the energy. Fastness, don't know if that's a word, but you know what I mean. And so just as an intro piece here, dark and light. The first half of the month feels like there's going to be darker energy, still this invitation of rooting in, of reflection, of cocooning, right? Because you're still moving through stuff. You're still looking at things from 2025. You're still clearing. And then into the second half of the month is where we're going to experience an opening, is what it feels like. It almost feels like the time before birth. And then the birth occurs and it's this big opening. Okay, so this leads us to the first astrological event that I want to speak to. And this is our first eclipse of 2026. And this is going to be February 17th, depending on where you are at in the world. This is important, okay? Because eclipse, the time of an eclipse is, and it's no coincidence to me that it's coming at the middle of the month, where I'm feeling into these sort of two different energies that are showing up this month that I just spoke to. You know, you have this eclipse that's coming in at the same time as the Chinese New Year. So this is now the shift from the snake to the fire horse. And this is a portal. This is a very important portal. And I highly recommend that you are taking time this whole month, but especially during the energy of the eclipse, to slow down. Think of it as a sacred pause, slowing down, really, really reflecting on what was and what is becoming, okay? What you are stepping out of and what you are entering into, okay? What you are letting go of, releasing, shedding that is no longer in alignment, and what you are desiring, envisioning for yourself. I feel into this portal, this eclipse portal, and it feels especially important because of, you know, this whole piece of the year 9 into the year 1, the snake energy into the fire horse. Like, this is a very important astrological date. Again, take what resonates. It may not resonate for you, but intuitively, I feel like it is a very important time. And so whatever you can be doing to be in, I almost get this vision of like crossing a bridge, but moving really slowly as you are crossing that bridge and taking time to look back and let go and delayer and slowly walking forward, entering into the new. So the eclipse is going to be a really important, I almost get it as like this timestamp in the month, not timestamp, but just it's an important moment in the month. So really take advantage of that energy if you can. Okay, this is a theme that's been coming up the last couple days, and this refers to the first half of the month, something you can be thinking about. And also in that eclipse portal energy is breaking chains. So this really connects to a lot of what we have been working through 2025, especially December, into this last month of January 2026, breaking chains. Again, and I've said this many times, but it's important to reference it here. 2025 was a massive karmic year. It was hard for a reason. There was a lot that had to come up. Also, it being a year 9, there was a lot that had to come up that was ready to be cleared, that you're not meant to take with you moving forward. And maybe you've noticed this. Maybe you've noticed some of these different pieces that showed up where you maybe just didn't fall for the same stuff anymore, or you couldn't hold that energy anymore, or you could see that piece way sooner, like you had the awareness around it, or you were just done with certain energy. those are all signs of things that you're ready to be letting go of, that you're ready to be shedding, that are not meant to be going with you moving forward. And so really noticing, right, this piece of breaking chains, this is part of the first part of this month, the breaking chains, really noticing what you're done with, like what you don't want to take with you into this new cycle that's starting, into this new energy that's beginning to open, that you might start to feel really opening the second half of the month to the end of the month. Breaking chains, continuing to clear karmic cycles. This first part of the month is important to really reflect. Take time, carve out space to just see what you're really done with. And I say that again because that is very much the energy that's been showing up. Like, what are you done with? And 2025 will have shown you what you're done with. Your own patterns, your own thoughts. Maybe it's these limiting beliefs that you're just so done with thinking. Maybe it's this way you speak to yourself that you're so done with allowing. Maybe it's these relationship dynamics that are showing up that you're so done with holding space for, like, ugh, right? So get really clear on what you are done with. We're breaking chains. Another important theme that's showing up, especially for this first half of the month, is patience. This sounds very general. It sounds very simple, but it's definitely harder to do than said. I don't know what that saying is, but you know what I mean. Patience, because we hear so much about the fire horse energy and let's get going and transformation and opening and expansion, but patience, because again, we're still in the energy of 2025, snake energy. We're still in the dead of winter, right? We're only just starting to enter into February. And so patience and continuing to create space for what is showing up with curiosity. Nothing has to change at this point. You could think of yourself as gathering data, gathering resources, gathering information, and it's preparing you for the opening that's going to be coming. And so patience in the process right now, it's almost like, you know, the vision that I just got was like running a marathon, and you don't want to just start sprinting too soon because you're going to gas out and it's going to be like you're going to jump the gun. So patience, pace yourself right now, because we're almost there. And this is a really important part of the process where you're still gathering to prepare you. Okay, now I want to speak to what begins to happen as we are entering into the second half of the month. So, you know, February 17th, 18th, we've got this eclipse that's showing up. And now we're starting to prepare for the new. Now we're starting to prepare for the fire horse energy. Now we're starting to prepare for the energy beginning to start to move, start to expand. And one of the themes that came through was doubling down on the vision. So last month, I gave you a piece around getting clear on your vision, tapping into how you want to feel, tapping into what you desire, tapping into what that could look like in your life. This is the double down moment where you revisit that vision if you haven't been, right? So come back to that vision, start to tap into, okay, how does that feel? How does that feel in my body? These things that I desire for myself. And attached to this piece of doubling down on the vision is heart-centered versus head-focused. Okay. So when you bring that vision back up, maybe you're still intentionally connecting with it each day. But when you bring it back up, when you feel into it, where are you noticing it in your body? If it's here, the invitation is to drop down, because that, and I'm going to speak to this for a moment, that might be an ego desire. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with having a desire from the ego. And I actually just spoke to this in a reel that I did yesterday around when it's not working out for you, here's why. When it doesn't go how you expect, here's why. Because often we'll get these desires in our ego, in the mind, thinking it's supposed to be this way, but it's often attached to some sort of external piece to help us feel safe. And so, and again, I could always do a video on this to explain it a little bit more, but the ego desire is only going to get you so far because it's conditional, right? Think of it as like being in a box. We want to get to the unconditional, which is that expansive desire. It's the soul desire. It's the limitless of where we're meant to go. And, you know, one of the themes that actually came through for the 2026 year was dream big and dream bigger. And I keep hearing this quote that keeps coming up for me, which is nah, bigger, from the universe, right? Like expand. Have this dream and now expand it. And so if we come back to this piece of heart-centered versus head-focused, can you drop down deeper? If you have this desire that's showing up here, can you get more to the root? Rather than thinking about, okay, what is that external thing that I want? Go a bit deeper, and how would that make me feel? That is the soul desire. Your soul desires an experience, a feeling, right? It's not these external pieces. Yes, it's great, these things show up, right? Maybe you want to make more money, maybe you want to call in a relationship, maybe you want a new house. But on a deeper level, what is the feeling that that would give you? What is the inner experience it would create for you? And as you begin to drop in deeper, this is where you begin to tap more into what the soul desire is. And that's where the magic occurs. It's because another astrological piece that's going to be showing up this month is we enter into Pisces season. Pisces is the sign of the dreamer, right? And we enter into this the third week of February. Like, we can't make this stuff up. I find it so interesting when I receive this channeled guidance, and then I look at maybe what events might be showing up, astrological energetic events might be showing up in the month, and I'm like, of course, Pisces is the sign of the dreamer. If you are Pisces, if this is your sign, this is going to be a beautiful time for you. Tap into the dreamer within yourself. Tap into the vision. Tap into your Pisces energy. We all have Pisces in our chart. It might be helpful for you to look up your birth chart and see where Pisces land, see what house it's connected to for you, see where you could really explore more of this dreamer energy and where it wants to expand for you, what area of your life. But there's no coincidence that we're entering into Pisces season around this time, that I've also received this guidance of dream big, heart-centered versus head-focused, and doubling down on the vision. But in order to do that, you have to connect within. You have to drop in. You have to create space to be able to drop in, and you have to let yourself extend beyond what you've always done. You need to let yourself go outside of the comfort zone. See what that dream is, and then go bigger. Is at the end of the month, we have our first Mercury retrograde. I believe it is February 26th. Mercury retrograde is, again, a moment of pause. Sometimes we can have issues with communication during Mercury retrograde. Sometimes we will have things from the past that show up. And to me, what it feels like with the Mercury retrograde showing up at the end of the month, as we are exiting out of that eclipse piece, and we're beginning to enter into the Pisces, and we're beginning to tap into our dreams, and we're beginning to feel the energy expand and get bigger. It almost feels like the Mercury retrograde is coming in as a last little piece of, okay, wait, what are you going to do with this? Okay, wait, what if this shows up? How are you going to hold this? How are you going to handle this? Are you going to fall for that old piece? Are you going to enter into that old energy? And if you do, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to hold yourself? Are you going to judge yourself? Are you going to shame yourself? Are you going to have compassion? What are you going to do with that energy? And so it almost feels like that Mercury retrograde that comes in at the end of the month is an extra little, I don't like to say test, but an extra little invitation from the universe being like, okay, wait, here's some last little loose ends to tie up. What will you do with this? How will you hold it? How will you hold yourself? And how will you ground into the vision that you are creating for yourself in the energy that you are embodying? Like, I will say this, we're already feeling the energy really beginning to get intense in the collective. This is no surprise to me. I have been receiving this from the records. The guidance that has been coming through is the energy this year is going to be really intense. This almost feels like a bit of a taster of what is going to continue to come this year. And my recommendation here, and this is something I talk to the women in my group with a lot, is boundaries with your energy. We want to be informed. We want to know what's going on in the world. And especially if you feel very passionately about a lot of the horrific things that are going on in the world, you want to be able to feel that. But one, boundaries with your energy in what you are taking in what you are allowing in, what you are letting yourself stay in. And two, are you channeling that energy? That's where the change occurs, is when you take what you are angry about, what you are upset about, and you channel it. You bring the love to it and you channel it. That's where anger can be such a powerful emotion. When we channel it, it becomes an energy of change, of advocacy. And so, one, boundaries with your energy. What are you allowing? What are you letting impact you? And how much are you letting that impact you? And two, what are you doing with what it is stirring up within you? You know, that quote, Gandhi, we are the change. And so what are you doing with that? Don't just let it sit in you, and don't just project it. Feel it, be with it, and then create something with it. That's where the change occurs. Okay, I want to add in one more really important piece here when it comes to practicing boundaries with your energy and what you are taking in, how much you are taking in when it comes to the collective energy and what is going on in the world. You know, and I'll be totally honest about this. I was having a conversation with my girlfriend about it, and we were talking about, you know, how do you stay informed but also recognize how much you can hold, how much you can take in. And I'm still trying to figure this out, because you can't just not pay attention to what's going on. You can't just shut it out, but you also just can't be taking it all in at all times, because your system can't hold that. And there's a really important piece here around the energy of fear. When we are in an energy of fear, we are in a contracted state. That means we are not regulated and we are not connected to the truth, our truth, your truth within you. And you cannot discern what is true in terms of what you are receiving. Okay. This goes back to simple energetics. When we are receiving, the clearer it is that we are receiving, the more open and connected and regulated we are. It goes hand in hand. And so when you're in an energy of fear, you're in a contracted state. You're pushing away, you're disconnected, you're not able to discern, because your nervous system is either in fight, flight, or freeze. You're shut down or you're somewhere else. And so this is so important when it comes to this piece of boundaries. It's not being aware of what's going on in the world, but it's also being really aware of how much you're taking in. And if you're even in a state of being able to receive it and do something with it. Because so much of what is going on in the world right now is keeping people in such a dysregulated state that nothing can be done with that energy. And so I don't have the answers, but I am trying to figure this out for myself, what this means, what this feels like, what truth really feels like in terms of what I am receiving. And what I do know, without going into too much detail, is that it actually works for certain more powerful energies at play for the collective to be in a fear-based state. One, because it creates more division. And when we are divided, we are more easily conquered. And two, when we are in a fear-based state, we can't discern the truth. And so in saying all of this, part of energetic boundaries is also making sure that when you are receiving information, are you processing that? Or are you just scrolling, taking in, and then wondering why you feel disassociated, or wondering why you feel like your mind is fried, right? Taking in pieces, letting them process, and then channeling through what needs to come through from that. Like, maybe it's about speaking it. Maybe it's about writing about it. Maybe it's about having conversations. Maybe it's about creating a group or doing some sort of advocacy piece. But it is not about just taking it in and doing nothing with it. That's going to keep you in a dysregulated state. And that's part of having boundaries. Taking care of your nervous system. Because when you can do that, you can process more and you can actually discern what is true and what is not for you. And that is where your power is. I thank you for being here. And if you got to this place, listening to the forecast, receiving, I really just want to finish with this piece. Truly take what resonates for you. Not all of it is going to resonate. And that's the point, right? My greatest intention with this work is to help you come home to your power, your truth, your frequency, your resonance, And so part of that is you always checking in with yourself, whether it's what I'm saying, whether it's something on the news, whether it's anything, checking in with yourself and asking, how does this feel for me? Where does this land? What do I notice? Where does this resonate? What does this bring up for me? That's how you check in with your truth. As always, I'm here if you need support. I offer my one-to-one soul readings in the Akashic Records where you can receive clarity, guidance, deeper pieces that help bring you home to what is true for you, for your soul journey, your soul path, things around your soul contracts and past lives that always have to do with the patterns and cycles you're in within this life, soul purpose. So many beautiful pieces you can receive in those sessions. I also offer my one-to-one deep dive soul coaching containers. This is if you're wanting to create some real change in your life, getting clear on your vision, what might be getting in the way, how to step forward on your path and your deepest soul alignment. It's powerful work. Let me know. I'm here and I will see you next week.